Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is David. This is episode 1705B, and today's date is November 1st, 2018, and the title of the episode is Before the Days of Darkness, Q Sent Messages. Let's get into the economic collapse, political, and geopolitical news. Now, we have been many days without Q, and people are calling this the days of darkness without Q. But before Q signed off for a temporary period of time, Q sent a message. We'll be getting into that in just a minute. Q also sent a message while Q was in darkness. And we've already talked about that, but we're going to be talking about that once again. But before we get started, I want to talk about Kavanaugh right now. And we know that we needed Kavanaugh in place to bring forth these indictments and to pass certain laws. And during the entire trial, there were GoFundMe accounts created for Kavanaugh. And Kavanaugh cannot accept the $600,000. First of all, he didn't set it up. And he didn't authorize anyone to do this. So Justice Kavanaugh did not authorize the use of his name to raise funds in connection with the GoFundMe campaign. He was not able to do so for judicial ethics reasons. Judicial ethic rules caution judges against permitting the use of the prestige of judicial office for fundraising purposes. Justice Kavanaugh will not accept any proceeds from the campaign, nor will he direct that any proceeds from the campaign be provided to any third party. Now, the GoFundMe page was organized by veteran conservative blogger John Hawkins, who said he organized the page in case Kavanaugh needed the funds for an attorney or security. Now, on the other hand, his accuser, Christine Blasey Ford, who lives in California, lives in a house that's worth over $3 million, raked in over $1 million in donations from crowdfunding campaigns, and has reportedly been fielding book offers. And this is according to Paul Sperry. And with her GoFundMe account, she said that she needed it for lawyers, she needed it for security. But you need to remember, if we go back to when she was testifying, her lawyer said they were representing her on a pro bono basis. So why does she need all this money? Don't know. Very odd. Or was this the payoff? And that's what it's starting to look like. Mark Zuckerberg right now is saying that he promises that Facebook will crack down on hate speech. Really? What is hate speech? He's going to do this before the midterm elections. What does he consider hate speech compared to someone else? Because there's many different definitions of hate speech. What's hateful to one group might not be hateful to another. So, again, if you go back to free speech is any speech. If you don't like the speech, guess what? Don't look at it anymore. Shut it off. Turn it down. It's just like a show. If you don't like the show, you don't like what it's about, you don't like listening, what do? You shut it off. And the more people that shut it off, guess what? No one's going to listen. That's how it works. You don't try to figure out what's hate and what's not. People will decide on their own. You don't need someone telling you what's right, what's wrong, what's okay to say, what's not okay to say. We see Adam Schiff and Maxine Waters. They're out there screaming and yelling on the top of their lungs. They're talking about Russia. If they take back the House, they're going to go after the Russian collusion. And that brings us to Q again, which back in post-1871, Q says, those who scream the loudest, and I'm going to skip around in this one, marching to the same beat, coincidence, logical thinking. Moving to post-2087. And this is specifically to Maxine Waters. Letter from Committee on Financial Services, Maxine Waters, California ranking member. How do you obstruct oversight? How do you obtain inside knowledge to closed-door financial investigations? Maxine Waters. Those who are the loudest have the most to fear. Hide. Money talks. Q. And here we have Maxine Waters screaming and yelling on the top of her lungs. What is she so afraid of? Why doesn't she want Trump in there? Because those who scream like this, those who scream the loudest like this, those people who say they're going to do this and that and the other thing, they have the most to lose. They're covering something. And when the deep state loses complete control, these individuals most likely are going to resign, most likely going to run, and we'll never hear from them again until they are caught. We see Mark Meadows is out there. This is the Freedom Caucus chairman. And he tweeted out yesterday, which was Wednesday, that he has reason to believe the FBI may have secretly taped Trump campaign aid in 2016. This is what he tweeted. Over several interviews, we've learned information suggesting the FBI secretly transcribed, even taped, George Papadopoulos in 2016. If these tapes do exist, the Department of Justice must make them available to Americans immediately. Their complete refusal to be transparent helps no one. Mark Meadows is continually putting that message out there that there's still tapes, there's still information keeping this alive. And remember, if you noticed, Trump has really toned down the tweets about Clinton, about those people in office, about Rosenstein, about many other people because of the Hatch Act. And we're most likely going to hear a lot more of this once the elections are finished. And I think it's going to really ramp up. Q's going to come back, and we're going to see a lot of things happen. It doesn't mean the plan has stopped. The plan is still in motion. Everyone behind the scenes is still doing what they're supposed to be doing. And since we don't hear leaks and things like that, it's all kept tightly wrapped up so nobody knows what's going on. Let's move on to what is happening with the caravan here. Trump came out once again and he said, I wouldn't be surprised if Soros helped finance the migrant caravan. And he continually pushes the idea, which we all know it's true, that Soros pays for these refugees, for these illegal migrants, for all of this to happen. And he uses his Open Society, his NGOs, and all the others to push his agenda. Now, what's very interesting is that the migrant caravan coordinator says demand for Mexico to provide buses has failed. And it looks like Mexico is not going to help out right here. And Trump is out there saying, listen, we might even send up to 15,000 troops to the border. And I noticed that people are kind of like weird about this, saying, oh my God, we're sending troops to the border. This isn't right. We send troops all over the world for many different reasons, to fight in wars that the people don't even agree with. But to protect our own country against a forced invasion, we shouldn't have the ability to send troops? Of course we do. Now, yesterday, we played a recording from Harry Reid where he was pushing the idea that we need to have immigration laws, that he was agreeing with the birthright citizenship. Now, former Nevada Senator Harry Reid is backpedaling. His comments that he made in 1993 over birthright citizenship were a mistake, he said. He said it was a very big mistake. After he made those statements, he spoke to his wife, and his wife said, why did you even say that? That's not right. So now he's backpedaling. So I guess the rest of the people that mentioned immigration, that we should have strong immigration laws, that we shouldn't just let everyone into this country, they should be vetted, and we should have a border that is strong. Maybe they all made mistakes too when they spoke about this, because who do we have here? We have Bill Clinton. I guess he made a mistake. Dianne Feinstein. I guess she made a mistake. Schumer. I guess he made a mistake. Hillary Clinton. I guess she made a mistake. Obama. I guess he made a mistake. Or they have a different agenda today than they did back then. And things changed. Not for the good, but for some other reason. Take a listen to what all of these individuals have said in the past.
All Americans, not only in the states most heavily affected, but in every place in this country, are rightly disturbed by the large numbers of illegal aliens entering our country. The jobs they hold might otherwise be held by citizens or legal immigrants. The public service they use impose burdens on our taxpayers. That's why our administration has moved aggressively to secure our borders more, by hiring a record number of new border guards, by deporting twice as many criminal aliens as ever before, by cracking down on illegal hiring, by barring welfare benefits to illegal aliens. In the budget I will present to you, we will try to do more to speed the deportation of illegal aliens who are arrested for crimes, to better identify illegal aliens in the workplace as recommended by the commission headed by former Congresswoman Barbara Jordan. We are a nation of immigrants, but we are also a nation of laws. It is wrong and ultimately self-defeating for a nation of immigrants to permit the kind of abuse of our immigration laws we have seen in recent years, and we must do more to stop it.
People who enter the United States without our permission are illegal aliens, and illegal aliens should not be treated the same as people who entered the U.S. legally. When we use phrases like undocumented workers, we convey a message to the American people that their government is not serious about combating illegal immigration, which the American people overwhelmingly oppose.
I think we can enforce our borders. I think we should enforce our borders. To have a situation where 40% of the babies born on Medicaid in California today are born of illegal immigrants creates a very real problem for the state, which is in deficit.
Look, of course you can enforce the borders.
Let me finish.
I agree.
To have 17% of our prison population at a cost of $300 million a year be illegal immigrants who come here and commit felonies. That's not what this nation is all about.
Interesting. She had a little bit of both here. Listen first when she talks about, woman said, what about President Obama? Gentleman, I'm sorry, said President Obama is the deporter in chief. Would you stop that policy?
I mean, the horror of a father or a mother going to work and being picked up and immediately whisked away, and children coming home from school to an empty house and nobody can say where their mother or their father is. That is just not who we are as Americans.
So there she's saying she thinks fewer people already here who are working, who are not doing anything wrong after they broke the law to get here, but they should be able to stay. But listen to this. We've had this crisis in recent days of all these children stacking up in detention centers at the border. On that one, Hillary Clinton took a much tougher line, saying no, they can't stay.
They should be sent back as soon as it can be determined who responsible adults and their families are, because there are concerns about whether all of them can be sent back, but I think all of them who can be should be reunited with their families.
That one there, I think the liberals are going to say, hey, wait a minute, right?
Yeah, I think so. And this was one example, I think, of from this town hall of her either taking both sides of many different controversial issues or being extreme.
And as you can see, all these people, they wanted strong borders. They didn't want people just entering the country. And now they're talking about the complete opposite. And people are confused about the 14th Amendment. Everyone's saying, no, if you're born here, that's it, you're a citizen. No. Remember, the key phrase is subject to the jurisdiction thereof. The meaning of this phrase was the central topic of debate precisely because it qualified who was to be considered a citizen in the citizenship clause. It is this phrase that made it clear that Indians were not included because even though they were born on American soil, they were not under the full and complete jurisdiction of the United States. The framers of the 14th Amendment did not intend individuals not subject to the full and complete jurisdiction of the United States to be included as a citizen. It is hard to believe that they would have accepted our modern conception of birthright citizenship, in which any person, regardless of whether they are in the country legally and regardless of their parents' citizenship, can claim U.S. citizenship. Think about it for a second. An individual or a group of individuals within the territory of the United States under a tourist or student visa or who have crossed the border illegally are not under the full and complete jurisdiction of the United States, but are still under the jurisdiction, at least in part, of a foreign nation. So if these students or tourists have a baby in the U.S., the babies are not citizens. Neither are the people who enter the U.S. illegally, because they're still under the jurisdiction of a foreign country. They're not fully under the jurisdiction of the United States. An illegal immigrant is not fully under the jurisdiction of the United States. A tourist or a student on a visa is not fully under the jurisdiction of the United States. They're still under their foreign government. That's what we're talking about. And the executive order is not to get rid of the 14th Amendment. It's to push the 14th Amendment onto the government employees to do their job. And to say, no, this is not a citizen. No, this is not a citizen, because under the 14th Amendment, you are not citizens. The mainstream media is playing it up like he's trying to get rid of the 14th Amendment. No, that's not the case at all. But again, yesterday we mentioned there's other countries who are following in the footsteps of the United States with immigration. We mentioned Hungary, we mentioned Austria, and now Croatia will not sign the UN Migration Pact. So we have more and more countries that are joining, and believe me, we're going to see a lot more say, you know something? Maybe this isn't right. Maybe we shouldn't be doing this. We see Trump right now is imposing maximum pressure on Iran. Again, he wants Iran to make a new deal with the United States, trying to force out the deep state within this country. And remember, Iran is trying to make a deal or some type of deal or keep the deal with Europe, and Europe is not stepping up to the plate. Remember, Obama was paying off certain individuals in Iran. Why do you think he put all this cash on pallets and had it delivered to Iran without Congress knowing about this? But the U.S. is going to waive India from the Iran sanctions. And this is only for the time being. So companies will be allowed to import about 2.5 million tons a month up to March 2019, the same as they ordered for October and November. Now, out in North Korea, we see that U.S. inspectors will be allowed at significant sites this month. Reports citing South Korean officials say that North Korea is making unspecified preparations at several different nuclear and missile testing sites around the country. Why? They're preparing them for visits from international observers. This is exactly what Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said a while back, saying that they're getting ready and prepared to have inspections. They're denuclearizing. The Taliban in Afghanistan, they have more control over more territory now than any point since 2001. And this is coming from U.S. inspectors. And we know that they're trying to bring the war to an end. Mattis is out in Yemen trying to bring this war to an end. The war in Syria is coming to an end. All of it is coming to an end. The plan is moving forward. These are wars that were started by the deep state. The people of the United States didn't want war with these countries. They didn't want troops going to these countries. This was to keep the deep state, the central bank system, operational, to keep control. That's why they were doing all of this, to keep the petrodollar propped up until they had that major event. And that's why they had these regime changes in all of these countries, because these countries wanted to sell the oil not using the dollar, and the deep state and the central bank could not allow that to happen. That's why we're in those countries. It's not for freedom, democracy. Actually, if you look at these countries, they're destroyed. The deep state went in there, they completely and utterly destroyed these countries, and they used terrorism to trick us. Well, Al-Qaeda, they're our enemy. And then the CIA and the intelligence agencies uses Al-Qaeda, because they created them, to overthrow governments. And once they have the government overthrown, what do? They say, now we're going after Al-Qaeda. Well, Al-Qaeda is really those people who don't want the U.S. deep state puppet regimes in there, and they're fighting back. So in the U.S., they had to pass a law where it allowed the forces to go after those people who are trying to get the puppet regimes out of power. And they call them Al-Qaeda, terrorists. Like in Syria, Al-Qaeda is being used to overthrow Assad. Well, not anymore, because they're defeated. The same thing with Islamic State. The same thing with al-Nusra, al-Sham, and the rest. This is how they use this, and they trick everyone here in the United States until we started to do research and we started to learn what was really going on. We see right now Syria, they're going to be opening their borders with Iraq. They see no security concerns at all at this time, and they're going to start trade. Right now, the deep state is in a huge amount of trouble. Now, since Q has gone dark, Q has been sending us messages. And if we go back to post 2381, this was Q's last post. And Q did send a message through this post. And if you look at it, in the beginning it says, Statement Release, October 9th, 2018. P_Authority 1. General Statement. And Q specifically said, we understand that there is extreme fatigue and frustration. R.E., the wheels of justice slow. Exclude emotion and personal desire. Instead, use logic and critical thinking based on situational awareness. Undo a lifetime of evil and corruption, infestation in the span of less than 2 years with a corrupt Department of Justice and FBI in place. Process and planning, law and order. Military op. And Q went on to say, how can you make arrests non-military? Prior to first fully cleaning out corrupt elements at the top. Then Q went on to say, these are all the people that are fired. Q then sent a message that these people are next. They're in the batter's box. So they already knew that they had enough power to say that these people are next in line. And Q was letting us know at this time that they understand that there's fatigue and frustration. And there's going to be a lot more because Q was going to go dark at this time. But in the middle of this darkness, what did Q do? Well, with VIP Annan, they sent a message to show that Q is still around, still there, waiting for the right moment to come back. On the envelope that we saw, there were 3 brackets on the left, 3 brackets on the right, with a plus sign in the middle. Where we go one, where we go all. The plus sign is Q+, the president. That was a message. This is a message. And Q continually reminds us, logical thinking versus clickbait. Because during this stretch of time, people are thinking to themselves, well, was Q just someone who just came out, or a group of people that just came out and they disappeared and now they just left us in the dark? No. Q had to go dark for a specific reason. The last post is telling you, do not become fatigued. Don't get frustrated. Everything has to be moved into place. There's a reason why Q had to go dark. There's a reason why the message was sent to VIP Annan now, to let everyone know Q is still around, that the president is in charge. Patriots are in charge. Q with post 2381 with the batter's box is telling you we have the power and these people are next. Messages were sent before Q went dark, and a message was sent while Q was dark. So we are receiving the messages. We just have to read and listen and pay attention and not veer off. I mean, I hear other people saying, ooh, now there's R. No, go back to Q's posts. There is no outside communication. The only communication is through the board. So all these other individuals, all these other people, they're all wrong. Just like they have been in the past, they're going to be wrong in the future. Stay on course, stay with the plan, trust the plan. Where we go one, we go all. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.